Well, hello, everybody. I think we're probably in pretty good shape with the volume. It might be a little bit peaked, but I'm gonna actually see if I can. Actually, don't seem to have a pair of headphones immediately around, but I think we're actually okay. If the levels are off, I guess I'll know when the chat is over or when the live stream is over. But we should be within the ballpark. I know that having it all the way up is no good, but it's a very hungry mic, so it needs a lot of TLC. So anyway, today's videos talk about mouthpiece buzzing. Now, there's a lot that's been said about this topic, a lot of opinions. It's good for your playing. It's bad for your playing. It's the best thing for your playing. It's the worst thing for your playing. I don't like to speak in superlatives, so I don't like to use never or always. But I will say that it is a valuable tool in scenarios where it can help, which is basically it's a student specific situation. Essentially, the trombone mouthpiece. This is my trusty old Bach 5G that I've had forever. It was old when I got it, and I've had it for probably 30 years, maybe longer, probably about 30 years. So, buzzing the mouthpiece, the idea behind it is that if we struggle with a passage on the instrument, maybe we're not accurate in our intervals, or it's just sort of muddy in relation to all the phrases around it, pop the mouthpiece off and play the phrase or the passage or the chunk or the interval on the mouthpiece. And in theory, by really locking in on the pitch and being super accurate with the intervals that you have to buzz, when you go back to the trombone because you're buzzing more on pitch, or you're really buzzing with more intentionality, you're going to get a purer sound on the trombone. Accuracy will improve. All kinds of things will improve. But it's not that easy. It's not as easy as just popping the mouthpiece off for some people and doing it. I think people have an aversion to sounding bad at anything or not being good at something. So if you try it and it doesn't work, then you don't want to do it anymore, right? And no one likes to look foolish. So I have a couple of tools here that I think can sort of bridge the gap. Let's say that you're wanting to get good at buzzing the mouthpiece and you just aren't good at it. Here's some things you can do. First step is to go to the hardware store and get a length of 1/2 inch clear tubing. And you're going to put that over the shank of the mouthpiece. So you now have a longer tube to buzz into. And I find it really helps give me something more to play into, something to play against. It's not necessarily more resistance, but there is more tubing, and it's closer to a harmonic series length of tubing. If you have an extra lead pipe laying around, you can do a similar thing with that. But these are relatively delicate. You have to make sure that the end stays round. So that's another option, is to buzz on the lead pipe. A third option is a little maybe less known, but most trombonists have heard of Nicola Ferro, Italian trombonist who spent some time in New York City, wrote Daybreak and Sunset, amongst other pieces. He came up with the nearphone, which is a buzzing tool that increases resistance. In his words, it's designed to match the resistance of the trombone. And this has the interesting effect of being more diffuse, but also somehow more focused in terms of how it feels versus how it sounds. This is a great way to buzz if you're in a space where maybe you're sharing it with people, like a Airbnb, and someone's cooking breakfast or drinking their first coffee of the morning and they're tired and they don't want to hear full on mouthpiece buzzing, this is a good way to sort of work on that. So I think that that can be a super helpful tool. Now, if you go the other way, and it matters a lot less than I think people realize, practicing on a rim. This is a rim on a stick. This is a Doug Elliott 103. This is a Griego 55 rim because I played the 55 for a long time. There's also the cutaway mouthpiece. Now, this is a Bach 4 or 5G that my dad actually did for me years ago. Dad was a jeweler, and he sat down at his workbench, and he got his jeweler's saw out, his basically high-powered Dremel, and he cut that up for me. Then Eric Henson out of South Carolina makes 3D printed cutaways with generally a Bach 5G rim. I think there's a 1.5G for bass. It's a little yellowed over time. I think it's just the actual filament that they use for the 3D printing. But this can be designed to be used while you're playing the instrument. You're buzzing the mouthpiece while maintaining the angle of the mouthpiece on your face, because it's easy to start manipulating in weird ways with the angle of the mouthpiece. And so on the rim here, the rim on a stick is nice because it keeps my hand out of the way. And the perception of what we do when we buzz is maybe a little different from what we're actually doing when we're playing. But I find that all of these tools help me feel more comfortable about my buzzing, and my buzzing helps me feel more comfortable about my playing. Now, the one caveat, I have a teacher who used this analogy. It's not my own, but it's a great one, so I steal it. I borrow it from him. Buzzing the mouthpiece is kind of like insulin if you're a diabetic. Not enough insulin doesn't really do anything to help you. Too much insulin can kill you, but the right amount of insulin can get you into a good sense of sort of stasis where you feel better, right? I think that mouthpiece buzzing is very similar when it comes to playing. Too much buzzing, I don't think it's good. I think it causes you to be tight and it just introduces other problems. Not enough buzzing or no buzzing, it's going to have no effect if you do very, very little. I tend to use it more as a diagnostic if something's wrong. And one of the best ways that I use it, I tend to not articulate when I buzz. So let's say that I have a passage from a Bordoni. I'm going to gliss buzz that whole passage. I am not going to articulate anything. I'm not going to do this. I'm just not going to do that. And here's the reason why. I think that one of the main reasons why we start having weirdness with particular passages in music is because the vibration stops, particularly in legato, where if the notes touch, we need to have sound the whole time. In order for there to be sound the whole time, there has to be vibration the whole time. So I want to do everything I can to not impede the creation or the sustaining of that vibration. So I gliss buzz basically everything that I buzz. It's a Tyrell. I'll just take all the articulating out of it. Da-dum, ba-da-dum, bum, 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 ba-da-dum. I'll play all that as one big glissy, gross thing that's hopefully accurate in terms of pitch. And then when I put it back into the trombone, I'm going to start experimenting with as little tongue as possible. And I tend to tell younger students, add a taste bud of tongue. until you find the right sort of mix of tone and tongue to make the phrases work. And those things seem to work really well. Everyone's accuracy improves. I have not had anyone develop focal dystonia from buzzing the mouthpiece because I think we do it in a healthy way and we do it to a healthy amount. If you were a diabetic and you had the insulin pump that's attached to your body and you just took a hit every time you ate a piece of chocolate cake because you're trying to counteract the effects of the sugar on your body, then that's not going to be good for you in the long run, right? You want to use the amount that your body actually needs. And then you want to also not do anything to impede that process by eating things that you know you probably shouldn't eat, or at least things that you should eat only in moderation. So buzzing in moderation is a great tool. Know how to use it, know how to cultivate your buzz if your buzz is not great. If you can't get the bottom note to speak, then what I tend to do is I narrow the interval. Let's say that's opening, it's G, F sharp, G, A down to D. What I might do is augment that final interval instead of going G, F sharp, G, A, D. I go G, F sharp, G, A flat, then A, play the whole lick, A, G, A, F sharp, A, F, A, E flat, A, D, and try to find the point where the interval stops responding. That's my log jam. That's the issue that's keeping that phrase from being able to be vibrated freely on the mouthpiece. And it's amazing to me how rarely people will change interval sizes in order to sort of gradually get to where they need to get in terms of the distance of the interval. They'll just play 1,000 A to D and with hopes that it's going to get better. That's a way, but it's not a very efficient way. It would be way better and so on until you reach and here's the kicker. When you get to the interval that you're hoping to play, the one that's printed on the page, go a half step wider. Then go back to the interval that's printed. I don't know why, but sometimes going wider than the printed interval helps. It sort of makes some room so that that's not the bottom rung on your ladder. There's always another rung below, or if it's an ascending interval, that there's a rung above. And that really helps make all this work. So these are just some practical things that I think can help if you're struggling with the whole mouthpiece buzzing thing. And you have to believe in it. That's probably the most important thing. You have to believe in the mouthpiece buzzing, because if you are sitting over here thinking that it's bad for you and you're doing it sort of like unofficially because someone somewhere is telling you, but you don't actually believe it's good for you, then you probably shouldn't do it, because you're never going to be wholeheartedly into it. You're going to be worried about whether it works. And that could be a bad thing. So I hope this helps. Hope you got something from it. If you did, let me know. If not, be kind, and I'll catch you down the road.